Welcome to Confessions of a Parent Coach. I'm parent coach, mother of four, and your host, Ann Kaplan. This is the podcast where you will learn that even for parenting experts like me, there is no such thing as a perfect parent, and that fabulous behavior and amazing relationships are right on the other side of that realization. If you're working your butt off to do right by your kid, honor yourself, and go beyond the BS around you, you are my person, and this podcast is for you. Full disclosure, I'm a sometimes potty talker, and we deal with the challenge of raising kids here. This podcast is for grown-ups, so stick your earbuds in and let's do this. Welcome into another episode of the podcast, everybody. So excited for this episode because this week I get to sit down and talk with one of my favorite people on the planet, my eldest son, Elijah. We're going to be talking about all things Enneagram, how he found out about the Enneagram. Spoiler alert, it was me. And what he took away from it, how it's helping him, stuff about our relationship, stuff about his relationship with himself, blah, blah, blah. And even if you're just curious to hear what the sound of my magnificent 21-year-old son's voice is, you better stay tuned and listen to this week's episode. So let's get it started. Oh my gosh, Elijah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. That intro was so illustrious. I feel so honored.
Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah, all the things. Yeah, sometimes we don't get to hear those words from our parents. So it's so funny that I'm like doing something in your business for that. So
that is true. Actually, that's a really good point. I feel like the only time, and I'm probably, whatever, hyperbolizing, but I feel like the only time that I heard like really good stuff from my parents about me was when they were saying it in front of other people. So I just wanted to say for the record that
disclaimer. Disclaimer,
I say all
my mom is very supportive all the time.
Yes, right? Even behind closed doors, I say nice stuff to Elijah.
No, it's only for business pleasure. Okay.
Exactly. So it's kind of crazy that I've been doing this podcast for as long as I have, and this is the first time that you've been on it because you're like my most like raving fan when it comes to Enneagram stuff. And
that's true. I think
stuff.
I'm definitely probably, at least in your family system, the most receptive to like Enneagram ideas and more progressive ideas too.
Yeah, totally. So what do you want to, I'm going to let you kind of kick it off. Like, just starting, I've been asking people who've been coming on the podcast, what I have realized over the years is the unanswerable question about the Enneagram, which is, what is it?
Yeah, true. I think that's kind of really interesting, and part of the parts of the Enneagram that I really enjoy is that you get out of it what you put into it. So you can go really as far as you want into it. It can become a spiritual guide for yourself, or it can become more of like an informative practice where you're like, oh, I want to see why this happens for me, or I want to know why this is what's going on with this. So you can really tap into really specific parts of the Enneagram for whichever kind of tool you need it in that immediate moment.
Yeah, totally. I was talking with my practitioner, Nancy. We were talking about why we love the Enneagram or whatever. And one of the things I was talking about is that it feels like the Enneagram is like this pretty masterful sort of system that meets you wherever you're at. So like, you might just be like, oh, I wonder what type I am, or am I an introvert or an extrovert, or like what's my communication style or whatever, like almost like corporate level and professional development, executive training stuff. And it's there. Or you can continue to like plug into it at like any point on your trajectory at whatever level of sort of development you're at, and you'll find something for yourself there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like, I mean, the way that I started out, like thinking about the Enneagram at all, was I think I was in her early high school, like 14 or 15. I think I was 14 when I first started it. And I at the time was just struggling with a lot of different things, a lot of like intersecting issues that kind of like boiled down to like a lot of conflict and a lot of like bad behavior on my part and like in our family system. And so one of the supports that you had suggested during that time in my life was the Enneagram. And although in that moment when I was first learning about it, I might not have been as open-minded about like the actual good effects of, what it's like to study the Enneagram or what it's like to like apply it to my regular lifestyles, blah blah blah. I wasn't necessarily there yet, but I got so, and even in that state, it was still helpful for me to understand like, oh, it's getting me to start thinking about how I think about things. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we're navigating like so much life that we forget about the way that we are navigating life.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I was just really young at the time, so I didn't understand how to navigate life or what that was even about. So even seeing projections of how I feel put onto paper in a way that is like usually really mildly easy to understand was pretty helpful. I didn't have any concept of like what is this self-worth idea? What is
Right.
this, higher being idea? It's like I am not with any of that. All I need right now is for me to read this and get some sort of takeaway that has to do with the way I navigate things, the way I see things, what's unique about me, and what do I bring to the table?
Right. Well, and I think also you're a great example of something that happens a lot, which is that people get mistyped sometimes. And that's what happened for you
Oh
in the
yeah.
beginning. I don't know if you can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think honestly, my mistyping was a testament to the accuracy of the Enneagram. So I'm a type one. So are you, which is really funny.
I know, just
Um,
wanting out today,
right,
everybody.
we're wanting it. You're wanting it.
Yeah,
Um,
we're number
I
one. We're number one.
damn, I don't see it that way. No, I'm
Me
just kidding.
neither.
But so I in the context of the Enneagram, when ones are, in an unhealthy state, when they're not in touch with, their values that they bring to the table, when they're not behaving in ways in which their values are in alignment, a lot of our negative tendencies are this kind of, indulgent lifestyle, controlling, and those
Hmm.
are the unhealthy aspects of
Hmm.
being a seven. And so
Right.
at the time when I was first getting into the Enneagram, it totally made sense why I looked like a seven.
Right.
I was really prioritizing the immediacy of relief, avoidance of negative feelings, which
A
is
lot of
like,
escapism.
a lot of escapism, kind of like those like um maybe more unhealthy qualities of
Hmm.
when people are out of alignment with when they're a
Yeah.
seven.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't surprised that that's how I was typed, and in the moment it actually really felt, it resonated with me because that it
Hmm.
was how I saw life, that was how I was seeing things. But
Right.
as I became more educated, not just about myself but about the way that I affect the world is affecting me, understanding the differences between my thought processes and other people's thought processes, I could more confidently be like, oh, I was in a state where I was out of alignment. So of course
Hmm.
I showed up in these ways. But once I became more aligned and found my path, I was able to way more confidently identify with a neotype one.
It was really
Um,
interesting. I think it for me as a practitioner, it really illustrated two things. Is one is that when people are really, really unwell,
or dysregulated,
all
right?
types start to look the same. There's just a lot of like you said, avoidance, escapism, really unhealthy, like self-sabotaging behaviors that shows up with, and if you just go through the wisdom of the Enneagram book and just look at what like the lowest level description is for every type, it's like it says stuff like drug use, sexual promiscuity,
Right.
well, suicidal ideation. It's like, oh, what do you know? When everyone is like really, really unwell, we all feel these things and go to these places. So
I
that was like
totally
a
agree.
really important thing for me. And I've gotten a lot more present to when someone wants to do Enneagram work with me, understanding like where they are in their wellness to hold loosely, whatever type they might be presenting as, because it may or may not really reflect who they are in their essential nature. It might just be that it's reflecting where they are in their wellness. Um,
Totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So, I mean, that was really it was a really good lesson for me. And I think the other lesson was um the utility of it even when you're wrong. Like at the
Yeah,
time, the identification that you had with the seven was really helpful to you and to me in
yeah.
understanding like where you were at and what kind of support you needed, even though in the end it wasn't really who you are in your core. And
Because I,
go ahead.
oh, sorry.
No, you
I
go.
think I'm sorry. There's something you said really rang true for me. Like I I think that because you how do I describe this? Looking at it from like a therapeutic lens, like what's actually beneficial, when you're with a client or when you're talking to another individual, it's really hard to distill from their words or from their actions or their behaviors or whatever they're saying their their schema, their idea
Yeah.
of what they're
You
doing.
don't know what
But
their
if
core
you
motivation is. You
no,
don't know what the
no,
why is behind the
right.
things that they're saying
and
necessarily.
and not all of us have a professional on our shoulder that can help us differentiate, like, oh no,
Mm-hmm.
this is what you're thinking, let me guide you through this process. The
Mm-hmm.
Enneagram's really helpful because, like, if nothing else, it gives you words that you can put into your toolbox for describing where you're at. A
Yeah.
lot of people who are encountering the Enneagram for the first time, like myself in the beginning, they don't
Mm-hmm.
know I mean, they don't know anything, and that's how everyone is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
self-work is really hard. Thinking conceptually about self is really hard. So wouldn't it be really nice to have a little book that even gives you like a jumping off point for being like, oh, I actually do resonate with that thought process that they just mentioned. I never thought
Mm-hmm.
about it that way. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even that's a huge strength for someone who is just starting out on their journey of self-perception
Mm-hmm.
and their journey of, well, no, I want to get better at this thing, or I want to understand myself better, or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It really does. It kind of, yeah, it gives you a language to understand yourself, but then also communicate to other people what's happening for you and help people understand where you're coming from. So I was going to ask you, how do you see the Enneagram as a tool in terms of relationships, like maybe even your relationship with me or other people? Anything comes to mind?
Well, I think that I've gone through kind of an odd journey with it. At times, sometimes absent-mindedly, I'll be categorizing my experiences based on the Enneagram, and I'll be thinking about people in terms of types. And I think that's good to a certain extent. But I think what
Mm-hmm.
I notice is eventually, like, what am I really trying to do with this when I'm doing that? It's like I was using it to try and control other people and our
Mm-hmm.
situations and how I was approaching things. But when I used it more as like more of just a general understandingness,
Mm-hmm.
then it became a lot easier being like,
Right.
knowing this is how I personally resonate with connecting with the world. These are my fears about the
Mm-hmm.
world. Like, everyone has those. Being able to think about myself first through those lenses helped me way more to connect with people. My One of my biggest things is integrity and the pursuit of like this, what I see as like this unlimited beautiful potential.
Mm-hmm.
And I really resonate with that outlook on life. That's who I am as a person. That's what I want to achieve. That's what I wanted to do. And the Enneagram showed me, oh, these are the ways in which I do that. And being able to know that when I'm with friends or trying to connect with another person, when I'm talking from a place of, this is what I'm passionate about, this is what I wanted to do. This is my kind of
Mm-hmm.
sacred gift, my way of communicating. When I feel like people are connecting with that, I know that they're not connecting with something that is inauthentic or something I'm using as, maybe social lubricant. It's me. It's in
Mm-hmm.
my wholeness and my oneness and my beauty that people get to
Right.
see that, and vice versa. Like, sometimes when you're with other people, and you're communicating with them, it's hard to differentiate, like, who are you as a person?
Right.
What are you bringing to this table in
Right.
my life? And, like, what are the things that you are just connected with? And that kind of goes sometimes with, you know, your
Mm-hmm.
pain too. Being able to understand people as feeling individuals, the Enneagram has given me lots of different ways to conceptualize people's feelings. At first, I saw anger as an emotion, as something that should be avoided. And, this anger is bad. It's all this toxicity. And then when I started reading about what are the other types, what are their feelings, how do they navigate things? Like, rage and anger, that's an intrinsic part of the Enneagram, just like all emotions are intrinsic to the Enneagram. So it really made me think about like, oh, when I'm seeing anger in other people, like that does not necessarily mean that it has this bad connotation, this bad circle around that anger. I gave me a chance to more freely look at
Mm,
people who are exhibiting specific emotions in a softer way,
yeah.
in a way that doesn't apply and attach judgments to other people's feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, being able to come from a place of like, everyone is constantly evolving.
Right.
If someone was interacting with me when I was in my quote unquote seven stage, like, I'm sure it must have been really difficult. And I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
can attest to that. Like, really
Yes, I
hard.
can confirm that. It was challenging.
I was, yeah, of course. But I bet having that diagnosis of the seven, I hope gave you a better in look of like, oh,
Yeah.
this is where you're coming from. I have a much better understanding of where you're
Right.
coming from. And if you can see that in all the different types, then what you've really done is found a softer space to view everyone, a
Mm-hmm.
softer view of humanity, a softer, more compassionate view of the human condition. I think that's really important in itself.
It sounds like what you're talking about is something that, when you get into the more deeper study with the Enneagram, we start to talk about a lot. At first I'm sort of hearing you talk about the Enneagram. Either you can use it as a tool for managing yourself and other people, or you can use it as a tool for empathy,
Totally.
and then we go further with that. It sounds like you're circling around this topic as well, is like the difference between like authentic, essential nature, like your core true self, versus this personality construct that you've built around that essence,
Right.
and which
Totally.
is the huge, the core of the Enneagram. A lot of people come to the Enneagram and they think, it's telling us who we are. You are a one. This is what that looks like. And at that point of recognition and like being seen, it's really valuable. But the
Mhm.
real point of the Enneagram, like it was never created to tell you who you are. It was created to tell you what you're distracted by and that what's getting in the way of you connecting with that higher essence. You
It
know,
it gives it gives it doesn't give insight. It gives opportunity for insight, in my
mm-hmm.
opinion. I
I
and
would
I
say
think
that's
that
true
is
about everything. Like everything,
well,
it's like,
yeah, if we want to expand that, I
mm-hmm.
totally you if we're gonna get super woo-woo in it, we totally can. But I agree with that. I agree with
Yeah,
that. But sometimes it's harder to recognize that relational oneness
right.
when we're stuck in our maybe we're dysregulated, or maybe we're thinking about food and getting paying bills. Like I could totally get in the way of like, oh, I want to become a little bit more enlightened. I want to, learn more about myself and the world around me. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that feels really inaccessible. Uh,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I just like having this vision as you're listening to you talk about like interacting with people, where it's like if I'm being my authentic self, not just my personality construct, not this like, set of behaviors and defaults, unconscious reactivity, but if I'm being my true self, that's what people are responding to. That's what people are
yeah,
receiving from me. That's real. When I get the reaction or the response from them, I know that it's to me with a capital M
right.
versus this like presentation that I've given. And
Exactly.
likewise, so, and sometimes I could definitely say, well, and for anyone listening to this that doesn't know, like Elijah is in the midst of his studies to become a social worker and therapist. So he's
Mhm.
learning all of these client tools, which I can tell you is just such fun conversation. We just talk about like client behavior and like how to
We've
run
had
sessions to get and like all the fun
yeah.
stuff. Like I got my little PIC here. We get to talk about all the
Yeah.
the inside baseball stuff about client work. But as practitioners, we have the in my opinion, sacred duty of doing our absolute best to bring our genuine selves to sessions and to find that authentic, true self in our client, even if they don't know exactly what it is, but to connect with their humanity, with their
Oh yeah.
essence, even when they are, quote unquote sleepwalking, as Gurdjieff would say, and
Right.
not awake to their essence. That doesn't mean their essence isn't there or that we can't connect to it or sense it as practitioners. So just because somebody else is asleep to their own essence doesn't mean that we need to be asleep to their essence as well.
Right. And honestly, like if we're looking at it from like a stages of change concept of just like, if in the beginning everyone's in this pre-contemplative stage where it's not their fault, but they don't know.
It's
They
just the
don't know
way
there's
that
an
the brain
issue.
develops. That's
Right,
just the way that
totally.
human
Right.
consciousness
No, that's
evolves
that's
for
how we
all of
work.
us.
So in the beginning, what it takes to jump into this like contemplation idea is being exposed to something that brings awareness to you that says like, I'm going to think about this more, or I want to, maybe there's a problem here or something like that. And the reality is that not all of us have like crazy big like problems, but we all interact inside differently with the world around us. Having an understanding of like, yes, this is how I do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's super, at least for me, really important. And it also gives me signals for in like a therapeutic setting, like when I'm not in alignment with myself, when like specific like red flags, mental red flags, where I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about a person in this way. I
Mm-hmm.
know based on what I've read about myself and what I resonate with, that when I listen to the Enneagram, I actually am able to show up in a much more technically, ethically appropriate way in which
Yeah.
I can have a differentiation between self and feelings, have a
Mm-hmm.
differentiation between this person in front of me and the baggage that I hold with my own
Mm-hmm.
journey. In those moments with a client, I need to show up as a third, as a medium of neutrality.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a natural state for humans.
Right.
That takes work and energy. And if the Enneagram has been so helpful for me finding ways and strategies to return to that neutrality.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, is like one of the most important factors for providing ethical and productive care for anyone.
Right. I mean, that's true no matter if you use the Enneagram or not, but anybody
Oh
in
yeah.
our
Whatever
fields,
methods.
there
Yeah.
you're constantly being told, like if you're not doing your own work, you honestly can't practice with any sort of ethics or
No.
integrity. Like you need to be
No.
working on yourself all the time. I mean,
Yeah, a teacher of mine, a professor of mine, in my advanced courses for partnership therapy was partnership and couples therapy. She mentioned the concept of a cigarette and a shot of whiskey in the med packs from the World War II,
yeah, there
because
used to be that.
yeah, and they weren't for anyone except the person providing the medical care. And the concept is just like you are dead to these soldiers. You are not actually a point of benefit for these soldiers if you cannot be regulated.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot provide ethical care if you're not regulated. So in the middle of this war, they would whip out their backpack, they would smoke a whole cigarette, and they'd take a shot of whiskey, and then they would return to their work. And that's I mean, hey,
Yeah,
I won't argue about
the principle is
the
sound. The actual
principle sound
tools we might
actually.
change nowadays.
But what she was trying to get at is like you are valuable.
Mhm.
Everyone is valuable, but your value is really hard to extrapolate when we are so bogged down with just the blindness of
Mhm.
whatever is going on with us. And
Mhm.
so sometimes we need to take a step back. We need to smoke a cigarette, aka educate ourselves, all like elevate our sense of understanding of self so that
Mhm.
we can come to a situation being our best version of self.
Right.
Not, and I will add, not a complete version of yourself, but a better version of
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
For sure. And I feel like an analogy for parenting is like in the moment,
oh,
you can't necessarily become self actualized in the heat of the moment when you realize that you're
right.
dysregulated. That's not going to happen. But you
No,
can take a beat and just like gather your thoughts and just calm down a little bit and then re
totally.
engage. And then definitely do that whole self actualizing stuff later because
Right.
that means that you'll
Exactly.
be less and less frequently in situations where you're dysregulated and more easily re-regulated and things like that. But like to give yourself permission, like you're not going to be your whole healed, best self in
Right.
these, really hard situations that dysregulate you, but you can be better in those situations.
Yeah, like I would totally argue that if you're reading the Enneagram, and there will totally be sentences that describe specific behaviors or specific like mental patterns in situations. Forgive me, I can't remember the exact number this relates to, but I know
Mm-hmm.
that one of the types, like when they're in a state of stress, the way that they find security is by seeking control.
Mm-hmm.
And, like everyone could say, oh, like, yeah, that probably sounds really bad, but not everyone actually thinks about it and does it that way. So in these times of distress, after you've read that sentence in the Enneagram, you could be like, oh, damn, I'm doing it right now. Like
Mm-hmm.
my kid or whatever this person is, they are doing something that's making me feel anxious. They're playing in the street too much. There could be cars. That's dangerous. I need to go help them, make sure
Mm-hmm.
that this is okay. And it's really important that they are able to control that environment for their kids for maybe understandable reasons. But in some ways, it's like, wow, that was like a really intense fear that I just had. It's very interesting that I just mirrored a behavior that this book just described.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, and but obviously in the moment that you're really scared, you're only thinking about, I need my kid to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a way you're a little bit dysregulated. I have one single priority. I don't got
Mm-hmm.
time to think about
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, am I behaving in a self-actualized way? No, of course not. But what's
Yeah.
really cool is that because you have the little seed in your mind of like, this is a potential behavior that people do when they're stressed, you can connect that afterwards once you're back to being regulated. Oh, damn. That's interesting to notice. Like maybe
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that's really, really cool.
So we're talking about like the Enneagram as this tool of like self understanding and just awareness, like just having more awareness about what you do, who you are, and what you're doing and why.
Yeah,
So
I think
it's
yeah.
like we talked about, like even when you were misidentified as a seven, there was utility there. But what
Mhm.
was it like for you to actually find your real type and recognize that?
It made me feel a little bit silly because I when I was doing my first rounds of all this Enneagram stuff, I read through every type because
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, yeah, I want to figure this out or whatever. And so it's not like I didn't read the one description or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. But at the time in my life, I did not resonate with the one
Mm-hmm.
structure. And I could recognize now that was just because I had been living so long out of alignment with myself. It was hard to be
Mm-hmm.
like to give an accurate uh you know idea of who I am at that moment. I was
Mm-hmm.
incomplete, and I
So
had
then
been
how
for a
did
really long
you
time.
like resonate with it? Like
I think
if it didn't resonate and you'd sort of closed your mind off to it, then what reopened it and how did you get that recognition?
I think that primarily I was closed off from the one perspective because it didn't resonate with my behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Although I was participating in behaviors, and although I was participating in behaviors from a lens of like kind of, not knowing, and I was just doing what I wanted,
Mm-hmm.
I I did know that they were behaviors anyways. So when I was seeing all of these descriptions, I go over the one, I'm like, all right, bro. This guy, like a one's identity is integrity. I was just like, I do nothing but non-integrity focused behaviors. I
Mm-hmm.
lie, I steal, I do drugs, I do things, but like when my parents don't want me to do them, I'm doing all these things. And
So it's like you saw
so
yourself
I
as
was just like,
bad, so
right.
you
I was
couldn't
like,
possibly see
I don't
yourself as
have,
someone who cares about
right.
goodness.
I don't have integrity. So there's no
Right.
way that I could be this type.
Which
And
is so funny because that's
so
the
fucking
core,
silly.
like scared, fiery belief that a one has is that they're bad.
Right,
That's why their
exactly.
whole personality is constructed about trying to be good.
Right, exactly. And what a really good depiction for myself that I rely on when I think about those times is that I I was not blind. I was actively navigating, and it just turned out that my ways of actively navigating my situation turned out to be behaviors that weren't supportive of myself or the community or the people around me.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's been very rewarding, I think, growing up and becoming the person who I want to be and becoming, living a lifestyle, leading it through my values. Like, wow, this one description feels a lot more applicable.
Right. I
And
mean, from watching you from the outside, what it felt like was like as you started getting, going through therapy and becoming well and stuff like
oh
that, you
yeah,
learned how to love yourself a little bit, just enough that you could entertain the possibility that you actually did care about being good and that you did
right.
regret the things you had done before, but
I,
you were allowed to
yeah,
the veil of like shame and self-condemnation to lift just enough that you could entertain this idea that
right.
you actually are a good person and you have goodness in you and that that's actually matters to you and that you're working toward it, which is all
And
what the
you're
one is
right.
about. But I think
Exactly.
you were so full of self-loathing before that it almost would be like, well, I'm too, like I'm not worthy of being a one because I'm such an awful person.
And that was, I mean, even though I didn't frame it at the moment that I was seeing it, that is basically how it resonated with me. And
Mm-hmm.
I think what's beautiful to think about now that I've come off the other side of that is having this understanding of like that compassion, that integrity, that those major values of mine, they were never
Mm-hmm.
gone. They were
Mm-hmm.
always there. It just, I had other things that were clouding my access to those feelings for whatever reason.
Right.
Whether that be, like ideas that I had invested in too much,
Mm-hmm.
that aren't accurate maybe, or are based on inaccurate information, such as this idea of, no self-worth. I'm a bad person.
Right.
I,
What's so
I'm a bad,
interesting is
right.
like when we talk about compassion, the other idea that I'm coming away from this conversation with is objectivity or distance.
Oh yeah.
Because when you describe what was going on inside of you that forbade you of being a one, it is the most one-ish process,
Oh yeah.
but you couldn't see it. You don't have that
No.
distance. You just are in a pit of like, I am a piece of garbage. And
Well,
now when
it's
you can pull like zoom out and pull back the lens, you can realize like, oh my gosh, like the very reason I thought I wasn't a one was because I was trapped in the personality construct of a one.
of a one.
Yeah,
Exactly. No, I totally agree.
exactly.
Well, it's the same way, like, what's a good, if you talk to a seven, if a
Mm-hmm.
one talked to a seven and said, like, oh, well, for a one, like the way I navigate and meet challenges is by going at them head on and, thinking through my processes and being really intentional about how I'm facing this challenge. And if facing that challenge means being uncomfortable, so be it.
Mm-hmm.
Ones don't actually have, if they're in a regulated state, they don't have they have a high tolerance for challenges and emotional uncomfortability. But if you told a seven that, oh, well, you should use my method, meet the challenge head
No, it
on.
doesn't work at
No,
all.
no, it wouldn't work at all. And I honestly, the seven probably wouldn't even understand the idea of actively putting
Well,
yourself
you
into a
just be
position
as a
where you could be
practitioner,
harmed.
you would be actively triggering their like fight or flight
Exactly.
response by encouraging them
Right.
to go to a place that's really uncomfortable and scary.
Right.
Whereas for a one, there's like this isn't true, but it's a psychological pattern that ones have, which is this belief that things that are purposeful and valuable and worth our time are uncomfortable and hard. So if something feels hard or we feel, that it's going to suck, that increases its value to us
Right.
in
It's like,
this
well, it must
really,
be something I
it
got to
must
look
be
at.
really important.
Right.
Otherwise, it would be easy and frivolous and not worth anything. So since it's
Right.
worth something, that means that it's hard. Or if it's hard, that means it's worth something. Everything
Right.
has to be hard. Everything has to be like this gauntlet. That's how you know that it's the real deal.
And it is contributing to my goodness as a
Yeah,
person,
that's right. And the more that
you
I go
know.
through it, the more that I run that gauntlet, the better I'll
Right.
become. And improvement and goodness is the most important thing. So let's go. And
But
I had to
if I
learn that
use,
the
yeah,
hard way when I started my
yeah,
business because that was what all my
yeah,
marketing was like. And every business coach I ever worked with was like, who wants to do this stuff? And I'm like,
right.
oh, right. Like I'm making it sound like torture because to
Right.
me, that's making it sound valuable. But
Right.
for everybody
This is
else, it's
really,
like, this
yeah,
sucks. No, thank you. I'm just going to
right.
definitely not do that. Thank you very
Right.
much.
And honestly, I think that is one of the strengths of the Enneagram. It is exposing people to actively expanding their tolerance
Right.
for those ideas, or even
Yeah.
having the availability to be like, oh, someone else thinks differently than me.
Right,
I
totally.
mean,
So when
that's
you
crazy.
finally allowed yourself to see like, oh, this is who I am, like what was
Yeah.
that like for you?
I think at first I was like I said, I felt silly. I was like, oh my God, I've seen this so many times. I'm reading it for like the fifth time in my life right now, and only now is it feeling
Mhm.
like it was pretty crazy, honestly. I was like, no way.
Yeah.
I
It's
was
like,
like, there's
don't
no
you think
way.
that's
It's
true
like,
for like every epiphany is actually also a duh?
yeah. Honestly, yes, that is so true. It's kind of like one of those like I sometimes I think about it as like, if you had a square view and you only saw half of a chair, you'd be like,
Hmm.
what the hell kind of thing is that? But
Yeah.
then as your view expands, you see the rest of the chair and you're like, oh, it was a chair the whole time.
Yeah.
It's not that it wasn't before, it's just now you can see it a little bit better. Or you're able to sit on it and,
Hmm.
move around the chair and be like, oh,
Hmm.
this chair looks really cool. We use
Hmm.
that analogy with like our feelings and our sense of self. I mean, that's really amazing
It's
to
that
me.
whole zooming out thing that we were talking about
Oh
for
yeah.
sure.
So I think that
Yeah.
I felt very seen. I think in my own personal life, I have a habit of quote unquote like othering myself. I'm
Mm.
unique. I'm different from other people. I see things differently from people.
That's the other
But
resource point of the one is the four. So
yeah,
that's your four right there.
exactly. And those things are really nice, but they're not realistic. That's not how life
Well, it
works.
becomes very lonely and isolating when we do.
Exactly. And so when I was seeing this typing and it really resonated with me, I was just like, it was once again so silly. Of course I was the same as everyone else the whole time. We're all like kind of the
Mm,
same in some like really weird intrinsic ways. And so I thought that I was just like, oh, I'm not other. I'm just an other. Like
yeah, I make sense.
and sometimes that is honestly for me it felt like a very like supportive place to be. I'm in good company.
Hmm.
And as my life has continued and I've like put more investment into self-work and also into educating myself about the world in general, like it's been also very funny to realize, oh, my mom is a one, like, and being like, that's really freaking valuable because I have a cheat sheet.
That
I have a
really is.
total cheat
I
sheet.
gotta tell you though, it is a challenge and a blessing at the same time. Like it's
Oh
really
yeah.
magical for me to be have like such a quick, like you said, cheat sheet. It's also is very easy to project. And what my biggest challenge is because I've been working, the Enneagram and like doing all this like personal growth work, around my type and around my personality construct and the relationship between essence and personality and things like that for so long. When I see you, this is true for, I think, for all parents with all of their kids, no matter if they have the same type or even know each other's types or whatever. when you see your kids going down the same sort of rabbit hole that you yourself have gone down and now realize is a rabbit hole and not, and it's doesn't lead to anything good, that's hard for every parent. With you, it's extra hard because it's like, I know exactly what you're doing to yourself right now. I know
Because
exactly what is happening. And like, can we just like skip this? And can we get to the part where you figured this out? All right, here, let me help you.
oh
Let me tell
yeah,
you the like whatever, that not like there's actually levels of development, or let's just say you're at level 3 and I'm at level 30 or something like that. I'm like, can I just
right,
like pick you up and bring you over here, because I like know all the things that your brain is going to expand
right,
into, and you don't
totally.
need to go on this like tortuous, you know expedition right now, so it
I already
is.
went. You already went on the
I know.
expedition. I
Trust
can.
me,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
is at the end of this, you're
Right.
going to find not a pot of gold, but a pile of crap. And
Well, it's really funny that you mentioned that because actually I had a therapy session yesterday. Shout out my therapist, she's amazing.
mhm. Everyone
But
loves Liz. She's
oh
the
yeah.
tits.
Oh, she's the best. I came to her and I was like, I had a frustrating conversation with my mom earlier this week.
Oh, really?
And
Oh,
yeah,
this
I
is
know
good. You
I
guys
you
are
yeah,
getting this
yeah.
real time,
No,
everybody.
yeah, yeah. Don't worry about it. It
I want
wasn't
to
anything
hear it.
crazy.
What was it?
No, so it was one of our conversations, and inevitably, like most of our conversations return to when I am asking for help, or maybe not asking for help, but like just talking about my experience, and then you give me advice or whatever.
Hmm.
We always kind of come back to this source, which is like 401, the best strategy for living a happy life that's more accurate is understanding in kind of like a really spiritual way that everything is perfect already, and that
Hmm.
our meddling with things and our ideas of control about how we want to control the perfection or perfection into reality,
Hmm.
sometimes we're too concerned with that and it draws us away from the beauty of what is.
Hmm.
And and so, and I learned that from reading the Enneagram and also from obviously communicating with you. So inevitably during these conversations, when we get to a space where it's like, here's the key,
Hmm.
here's the key. You just go, the door's right over there, go open it. But
Hmm.
for me, I'm just standing there like just fucking like, here's the key. Wow, I actually don't have the capability of finding the door right now. Like,
Mm. It's a great
I so
analogy.
when I was talking to my therapist about it, I was like, it's so frustrating because I'm reminded every day of an example of what it looks like when a person with my specific outlook on life and maybe deeper understanding of the world, I know what it looks like when they are in alignment and they have unlocked that door. And
You
so,
mean you're referring to me as like an
yeah,
example of that? Well, that's very
yeah,
flattering.
yeah. No, I know that you will also deny it, and
Well,
I
I'm not
feel like,
denying that I am that way sometimes, but
oh yeah, I
but I
mean,
can see what you're saying. Like that would be really hard.
like none of this was a judgment of you or
No,
anything like
no.
that. It's kind of like this existential, like, damn it,
Well,
like
what was the frustration? I'm trying to rack my brain of
I
conversation.
think my frustration was just like I'm not there yet, and I want to be
Oh,
there,
what were we
and
talking about?
I think that it was our conversation about disenfranchisement with the systems.
Oh, that's what it
I,
was. I remember now.
yeah,
You were like getting
and
back to school and it was
and
your
I was just
first week
like,
back and you were just like, I am not
I
ready for
don't,
reentry. I don't
yeah, like I
subscribe
don't,
to any of this
right,
shit.
I don't resonate with these systems in place. I don't resonate with the way the society is functioning. I
It's
don't
all just a
resonate with
bunch of fucking
blah
hoops that
blah
we
blah
have to
blah.
jump through. It's all
Exactly,
just damn the man
exactly,
because this is all bullshit
right,
and fuck
exactly.
this crap.
And it's not to say that that perception is invalid, but it's missing key points, which
Mm-hmm.
is that if you start from the assumption that things are already what they're meant to be and not
Mm-hmm.
something that could be,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it turns out that you're a lot happier.
Yeah,
So,
now I remember this. And I do remember several times, like, you'd be like, well, it was just so much better when I was on break. I was doing this, I was connecting with nature. I was like
right,
touching into something really divine and it was
right,
magical. And now here I am sitting in this classroom. I'm like, yeah, but it's all part of the same thing.
Right.
Like the
Exactly.
divinity and the connection and the
Right.
sacredness that you felt on break, that's happening in this classroom with this boring
Right.
professor who's droning on and on. And you were just like, and I
I
kept
was so
coming.
focused on like well,
Yeah.
the potential's here. Why aren't you making it real?
Right. Yes. Like this
And
isn't how it's supposed to be. It should be this
right.
other way.
Like kind of looking around and being like, this is madness. Why doesn't
Yeah.
someone do anything about it?
Hmm.
And so I spent so much time being like, something should be done about this. This is
Yeah.
atrocious. And I didn't spend any time being like, okay, what if I moved a little bit past this atrocity idea and moved
Hmm.
more into a way of like, why is it this way? Why, how has it become to be this way? It's kind of okay that it is this way,
Or like,
actually.
where is the magical
Right,
connection and
exactly.
divinity that's happening
What
right here in front of me?
Yeah, what are the ways that I can introduce those aspects that you just mentioned into my everyday life?
Right.
And I like, and so for me, I hung up the phone and I was like, God damn it, like, but I still hate these systems. I still hate all this
Totally.
shit.
But you know
So,
what? If you zoom out even more, the hate
right,
is part of the perfection too.
totally,
Your
it totally
hatred of
is.
it is part of the magic. The
Right,
boringness of it is part of the
totally.
magic. The frustration with me is
Exactly.
part of it.
Right. No, totally. So I guess I phrased it a bit wrong. I actually really wasn't frustrated with you at all.
No, I
But
know. It's fine.
I was, yeah, and I talked to my therapist about it and I was just like, I feel like everything feels so hard because like I said, I have the key right in front of me. It just feels like there's like kind of this invisible barrier
Hmm.
that I'm hitting. And I think that what's been very reassuring for me over the past year and a half, past 2 years, when I've been sensing that wall while still having the key, is that I'm kind of like, maybe that's kind of just the way it's supposed to be right now. That
Well,
is
yeah.
perfect too. Like,
Yep.
like
That is perfect too.
I don't need to rush this process of me
Hmm.
becoming a guru. Like,
Hmm.
like that is not something that any 20-year-old, 1-year-old should be. And if they are, I
Hmm.
mean, wow, that's up
Hmm.
to you. I don't know how you did it, but like, I'm okay with being incomplete right now. In a way, I am complete with my incompleteness.
Yes, I love that. And to bring it full circle to the parenting side of it, it's like I have to remember that too. Like
Right.
you're supposed to be at step 3, not step 30. And like
Parenthood
I don't need to like,
evolves.
yeah. Well,
Exactly.
and like you watch
Yeah,
your child, there's no need to like i- change or rescue or,
totally.
fast forward or skip over the hard bits or
Right.
whatever. Like it's all exactly
If
perfect.
if I if my child needs to just be immature right now
Hmm.
because they are immature inevitably in some kind of way, like that's gotta let them do the thing. And but every once in a while you'll also be with your kid and you'll see the magic too. You'll be like, this is the magic. I'm seeing it right now. Like this is, and that is really what it's like to be pulling in on that kindness, that compassion,
Hmm.
that uh eyesight availability for the
Hmm.
greatness.
Yeah.
Which I think is really, really cool.
That's so cool. I love that I frustrated you. Congratulations. What did Liz say? I'm curious.
Oh well, first she did her snort laugh, and then and because the way I phrased it to her, I was like, God damn it, Liz.
Yeah.
You, you, you know how much I try to be like blah 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 regulated, this perfective idea. I'm like, and then I get a call from my mom, and she gives me all these responses, and I know that she really believes in them, and I just don't believe in them, and I know I
Yeah.
want to believe in them, and so she was laughing at me. She's like, I understand where you're coming, and also like, I don't. That's kind of how life works. Like you're figuring it
Right.
out. And
Right.
like she was like, no one has it figured out in the beginning. Like that would be really weird if you did. So,
It's not like the last Avatar,
right, exactly.
where you have like a
And
7-year-old who like
eh,
is connected to the Matrix or
yeah, and
something.
she really resonated, like, or not resonated. She was really she was talking about instead being satisfied with what we've already achieved, and that kind of like in its own way lends to further achievement.
Hmm.
And she was just like, I mean, look at yourself now. You like from the
Seriously.
metrics of just like humanness.
Hmm.
Like you are in school, you're a fit person, You are extremely educated. You're in a place of privilege, financial privilege, where you have access to freedoms that a lot of people do not have. And also, like, you're a pretty like good and amazing person too.
Yeah, you're
Like
kicking
from
ass.
all of right, from all of those metrics, like I really do feel like I'm a successful person. I'm feel fulfilled. I feel happy and I love the things that I do and the things that I learn about and like all of those things are really satisfying. She's like all this hunger for this next chapter idea. You're rushing the beauty of the process you're already in
Hmm.
and I really resonated with that too. And funny how that connects directly back to the Enneagram, saying like if you invite perfection as like a thing that already exists, you'll be a happier person. And look at me now, now
Yeah.
this week, a week later, I'm thinking a lot more in the lens of like, damn, the sun's really bright today,
Hmm.
and I have a smile on my face, and I'm going to a class that I care about. It's
Yeah.
like I'm like feels pretty good. I'm doing what I need to be doing, and I don't need to be thinking about, like, oh God, am I thinking about everything in a perfect way or in a,
Hmm.
it's more just like,
Hmm.
how about I just lead a lifestyle
Hmm.
that is more focused on being present and enjoying the things that are, not enjoying the things that could be.
Hmm.
Those things
Yeah,
don't even exist yet.
totally.
I have everything I really need right here in front of me.
I love that. That doesn't even exist yet. Exactly.
Right.
So
Exactly.
if you're somebody, just to bring it back to the tangible here and now, everybody by this
Right.
point, probably who's listening to this already knows that on April 26th, I'm doing the Living Enneagram mini retreat right here in my house, here in Denver. And you're crazy if you're local and you're not coming. What's up with you?
Yeah, what's
Um,
up with that?
yeah, what's up with that? So, what would you
I'm
say,
biased. I love
besides
my mom's
saying what's
money.
up with that? What would you say to someone who's thinking about joining me on that day?
I would say that there's no reason not to do it. I mean,
Mhm.
the worst thing like the least that you could get out of it is just more information.
Right. And
And
a
I
really
would
yummy
be
brunch and a gift basket.
right. Oh, dude, that's involved too. I didn't even know
Yeah.
that. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, then
Hmm.
you're definitely kind of wild if you don't show up. But like, like if you look at it in terms of like, well, the worst thing I do is I leave it and be like, that didn't resonate with me. At
Hmm.
least you have figured out a part of human society that you just don't resonate with. That's okay
Right.
too.
Yeah. It's all new. It's not all information and it's all
Right.
experience.
Right, exactly.
Oh my gosh. Everything that we're talking about, I could do like a podcast episode about each sentence that we said. I could do a whole
Oh no,
episode about.
seriously.
But you got to
I
go to
agree.
class. Chop chop. Do your homework, little baby boy.
They actually got taxes, even worse.
Yeah, even worse. No,
It's
you're in the worst position. You have homework and taxes.
societal homework.
Yeah. Now we're right back to like, damn the man, screw
Yeah, you know
this
what?
culture.
Everyone forget exactly what I said. This is all bullshit. No,
It's
I'm
all
kidding.
bullshit. Exactly. It is all
Uh,
bullshit. And that's why you can be cool and happy and chill and enjoy it. Because
actually,
everything is
that's also true.
nothing.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Oh man. Well, Elijah, thank you so much for being on the podcast and
Totally.
being an awesome human and being a part of my life and sharing yourself with the world.
Thanks. Thanks for being a kick-ass mom. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that I got to be part of your journey. I
Yeah.
mean, you've been making content for so long. You're right. It's like the first time I've really
Yeah,
been
it is
on,
kind of weird.
and I'm
Well,
glad
I'm
I
going
am
to
here
say
now.
goodbye to my people. So everybody get yourself there's I think right now 6 spots left. So right at the time of this recording anyway, there are 6 spots left for Sunday, April 26th. Join me for brunch. Have a great time, learn a little bit about the Enneagram, figure out what type you are, all of that great stuff. And Elijah, stay on the call because I'm going to talk to you about taxes after I stop the recording.
Hell yes, I need
I
help
got
just
some
like everyone
momming to
else.
do,
Yes,
everybody.
please help me, mom.
Awesome, everybody. I'll talk to you all next week. Bye. The episode is over, but there's more waiting for you. You can grab my free workbook, Getting Kids to Listen the First Time, that walks you through the fundamental principles I teach all of my clients and applies them to this very universal parenting challenge. So if you're sick of repeating yourself all day long or just want to learn more about my style, you'll definitely want to go to bit.ly/kidswholisten. And if you're ready to work with me, let's meet. Set up a free call at bit.ly/Kaplan call, and let's create an action plan that gets you exactly where you want to go. And of course, links to all this goodness are in the show notes. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.